because technically it's a bigger topic. And what I want to do is actually just go over some basics of how to have a design pattern that we can work with, that we can understand, and go over some basic things that sometimes, because it's test code or it's something that a student started and now we need to maintain, it causes problems. And it causes problems because no one actually understands how much time we spend on it until it's very much so a viable thing that we can't release without. And then it becomes a rigorous process of all the time going through this. We don't understand what those tests are doing sometimes. We don't understand what the logs are doing sometimes. And every time we try to do something, we're breaking everything else. So in the end, this is a software and a very delicate one. So to answer that big question, yes, it is very necessary to have clean code and design patterns when you're doing UI testing, because test code is code and test code is software as other software. Oops. So what is clean code in a very, very kind of basic level? So clean code is a reader-focused language, and the idea behind it, and I'm gonna kind of gone through this a bit, this presentation, because I want to also have like code examples and not just pseudocode that we have in the presentation. So if I'm too fast, let me know. Okay, so concept between clean code is we're not writing code for the machine, we're writing code for other people who are reading our code to actually be able to understand. This is the UI testing. Okay. So, yeah, Norbert Knuth said, programming is the art of telling another human what one wants the computer to do. And this is something that is the basic of what we need to understand when we're writing our tests. And now, why clean code in UI testing? Like specifically in UI testing, not in live. First of all, code is your pride. It doesn't matter if it's UI or not. It's something you put your name on. Treat it as such. Let's face it, writing clean code makes our life easier. It's true. It maybe is a rougher start in the beginning, but when we are already in the process of doing things, it's easier. Because as QA or automation or software engineers or any other profession around that, the people who are working on it, you need to read a lot of it and understand a lot of code. Because you're a professional, and this is the industry standards of being a professional now. And a big one is because in automation specifically, and UI testing, it's documentation of user behavior, which unlike unit testing or business logic, this is how a user behaves, and this is a living documentation, unlike a static documentation that we have, which is obsolete most of the time. So let's talk about guidelines. So readability, of course. We don't want to have any redundancies. Easily extended by others. Forget what you heard, smaller is better, and focused. So let's take a look at this. And I'll ask you, what is this?
The blue part is hard to read.
Yeah, sadly I haven't taken that into account, but it doesn't matter really. I guess we'll. So this is a very pseudocode thing that does something. And even if the blue part would have been readable, it's IDs and clicks or something. So generally it's just find element, ID, and ID. It's very still.
It's like Selenium, like binding some node.
Yeah, it's Selenium with Node in a pseudocode way, yeah. But the idea is that it's if a person who's not in the code would probably not understand what's going on here. So let's just focus on this for now. This does this. And the idea that we have here is talking about readability. First of all, let's try to take our code, who's nasty, and move some parts of it to other places where one spot will be readable, at least that segment. This is a very easy way to do that. So log into IMDb, that gets a username and password. And now our code looks more like this. So we already have some context, and we continue on forward then. Let's talk about redundancies. So most likely, if we'll do login to IMDb, we'll have login to IMDb as the default user, as an admin, as whatever. Most likely, we're going to have a lot of those. So let's create another method. Let's call it default user for now. Whatever will happen later will happen. And let's say that the username and password will come from, in the future, from configuration. Hello, hello.
Hi, we come to the drafter tests.
Yay. You're in the right place. So, no redundancies. Now everyone can actually add on other things and use that test as that method of login and extend it. Say, okay, in this one I want administrator right, I don't want administrator right, and so on. Easily extended by other. Let's generally, in a very kind of awkward way, say, let's add logs here. It's very simple, but then this is how it should practically look. And yeah, I am very sorry about the font and the fact that it's in dark, but I hope I can maybe somehow adjust it.
Trust me, you're doing much better than I did when I couldn't even connect my laptop.
Oh, no, yeah, I asked someone else to give me his laptop, so same as. So anyhow, so what, can you see the method signatures at least, or is it completely off? Damn it. So I'll just read it out loud then. So we're breaking everything apart. So instead of having this very big method of having, okay, this is login with a lot of driver code in it, we're just taking things away from it. And now we have, okay, let's have open IMDb, let's have set username, let's have password, and in the end we'll probably want to click the login. And now our method of login to IMDb looks different. It looks, well, we have open IMDb, set username, set password, click login button, and we still have the login to IMDb as default user. This is way more readable. So another abstraction, another time where disgusting code is being pushed back. And easily extended by others is also now where we have a remember me checkbox or not. We can just easily edit. This is still readable. Let's talk about now code repetition and smaller. So let's take a look at this. So we have here the same ID and the same call, but technically this thing now is going to repeat itself every time we're going to do those things. So technically what we can do is just break apart this thing and call it set text, because in Selenium, for example, you need to clear the input to set text if you want to set text from scratch. It's an example. In other places you might not have to do that, but we can abstract that and then decide on that abstraction there. So if we have set text, we can do this now. We can do every time we want to put fresh text, just clearing it and then sending the keys in Selenium. And this is now how it looks, which is way nicer and smaller. This is our class now. Okay, let's talk about focus. And this is a big topic because, and somewhat controversial sometimes. Focus means that we have 3 asserts here on this test that we have, that we're still not sure what it's doing, because we know that it's logging into IMDb, but the rest is not clear for us. But we have asserts that are, we have assert and then goes to another place, and another assert and goes to another place. I would argue you might want to have 1 assert per test, or at least several asserts that are in the same logical realm. So if you're testing one thing and then you're going forward to another place to test another thing, that's already problematic, because if the first one fails and the second one is not related to the first one, then you can't test other things as well. So focus is very important here. Let's then have our tests more focused then. So let's go through some guidelines that we have. And let's talk about facade, because right now we created this thing, which we didn't really know what we're doing. We just took things and put it somewhere. And what is this thing then? So we want to have one interface to speak with. And we want to have our automation third party be easily replaceable conceptually. As I said, we had this set text. Now we have Selenium as our third party, but maybe in the future we don't want to have Selenium. We'll have something else. Maybe we don't need to have the clear and the send keys. We want something else. And that's the idea, is it's one place to go and not search and replace everywhere we have those things. You can intervene in third parties methods, and in a simple way you can actually just start tracking or changing things that are happening there and saying, this is not how I want to implement it, or this is what I want to happen as well in my interpretation of this. And you can magnify the third party methods with the same interface currently have. So let's talk about now the ultimate facade pattern of testing, which is page objects. This is very well known as page objects. I like to or prefer to call it view object, because today's world we have single page applications and people are asking, well, if my entire application is single page application, like, okay, let's more get it to focus as a view. A view changes even though if it's the same page, and also for mobile. Mobile is more view related and not pages, so I'll use the page object because it's known, and then you can Google it if you want, if you don't know it, I assume some of you do because it's very well known. So a page object are some sort of an API to a page or a view. And the idea is, if for now I have a login API, I know my endpoints. I know that I need to send a post request with an object JSON of my username, my password, and I know that if I'm fine and good, I'll get a confirmation and I'll continue forward with the cookie. I'll ask myself then, what is a login page for me as an API, something that gives me something? And I'm asking myself, okay, what can I do in a login page? I can set a password, I can set a username, and I can click login. And that's the idea. So the idea is a page object will give you a code interface, and that will talk to the HTML behind or to JavaScript behind. So it is just another abstraction layer on top of that. So let's take a look at our login example. So we type our username, we type the password, we click login button, and this is also, we're expecting failure or success. And this is something that's also good to have, is if you write those things, and once you write those tests, you see that sometimes you want to test a failing scenario, which is kind of similar but different. So you have a similar flow where you do the login, but one of them will say, we expect now you to move to the home page. One of them will say, we expect you to stay where you're at. And this is something good to also have, is this what you're expected to have on your method. So let's call those things then more services. So what do the services do? So we need to have a login page object, as I said, and we will set a username, password, login as default user, and still we have a problem. Because now we have this really great facade pattern, of a login. But we still have driver all over the place. We now created this really nice thing where we have Selenium on a login page, Selenium on our home page, but we still have driver all over the place. And this is not really a facade layer or an abstraction layer if we have many, many, many abstraction layers on many, many, many different pages. And the idea is to create a base page. A base page wraps Selenium or whatever third party that we have. And we extend there all the basic operations of Selenium in this example. So if we want to have find element, we extend that find element as well. We take it and then we maybe add loggings if we want to have a debug or something, and it happens once. And then we can easily just extend our pages. So for example, our page object summary. So we call it from a design pattern or a view, and page object exposes only the services provided and does not expose Selenium. It doesn't even know what it is. Page objects is not a test. Don't do any asserts on a page object. A page object is an API. It's, hey, can you do this? I want to set a password. I want to set this username. I want to continue on. And methods return page objects. So, and this is very also, it's supposed to be fluid. So the idea is if I click login and I expect to move forward, I expect to get a home page, I should return the home page in. So technically whoever writes the test can say page equal new login page, click login as default user. So if you do page equal login, page login, we are now on the home page. We get the home page into our page. So we can continue on in a fluid way. And we continue on using clean core principles because this is very important as well. It needs to be readable. So let's look at an example of a page object hierarchy. So we have this thing. So our base page, and I will show more code examples. So excuse me if this would look a bit more awkward now. But for now, as a structure, we have Selenium that talks to a base page and a base page that talks to Selenium, and that's it. No more driver anywhere else. And how it would look is like this. So if we have driver get, we'll call it navigate in our abstraction, why not? We have element click, I'll just call it click for now. Element clear and element type will be set text for us. Oops. And element text will be get text because this is how we prefer to have, this is how we write code in our standards. And so on. And continue on. And now we have a login page. So how would that actually look then? So our login page will inherit then the base page, and we will talk in our language. So for us, set text is the better way than send keys. And this is our standards, and that's how we will talk. And we will do our login test. Now we have our application 1 base page. Also inherits from the base page. But now it's very interesting because this is IMDb. This thing is everywhere in IMDb, aside from the login page. You can find it in all the pages. So this technically is the application 1 base page. Application 1 is IMDb. We might have different applications. So we will just take this and say, well, this is our search bar or application IMDb base page. And everywhere else we will create, we'll just inherit from that. So this thing would extend, this thing would extend base page will extend Selenium, and then we get all the time, everywhere we're at, doesn't matter what, we can still do page.search. Okay, so now let's take a look at other things in our IMDb example. So we can, oops, yeah. So we have on the side, this thing exists sometimes, it's in blue or something. And we continue on, and this is the content, this is the view of the home page technically. And this thing kind of has other pages that exists on, but this is specifically and only exists in the home page. So what happened to our original test then? We had this thing, and now technically we have this thing because we made it more focused. And now we have this. And sadly the blue is still, I'll read it out loud then. We have var page is equal new login page. And page is equal login page, login to IMDb is equal user, which will be this. And now we'll do search for Ryan Reynolds. Deadpool is happening now, clearly affected. And now what we want to do is test that actually the search is working. So we'll do a search equals search result page, get the search result number 1, get the title, should be Ryan Reynolds. Awesome blossom. And now we're talking about more asserts that are fine, because I brought up the case of don't do many asserts or more than one in one test, but it's okay to do in the same logical realm. So if you want to test that not just the name works, but also the actor or the movie is known for, because it comes from different databases, but for the user it's the same. I click on search, I just get information, and I want to test that, that is fine. Because we're not doing any interaction, we're not doing anything else, we're just testing that this page works properly. We got to the page already, so it's okay. And now, minor fixes here, we can just say actual result instead of doing search result page, get result on all of them, and then it's a bit more readable. And that's it practically. So what is this? This is this. It is exactly the test that I kind of ran through. And thank you, and that's the presentation. And now, if there are any questions, great. Sorry if I ran through it. And if not, then I can show some JavaScript things or very minor JavaScript things. But let's open this for answer or question and answer for something.
So
Yes.
I have a comment. So
Yes.
this is pretty much how Selenium tests are implemented in JavaScript in MediaWiki core.
Mm-hmm.
If you open it, this is what we did. So I mean, were you influenced by it, or did we just came to the same conclusion independently?
I think we came to the same conclusion independently, and it's also very industry standard a way to do that.
I was also following whatever I thought was a good idea.
Yeah, no, as I said, this is automation 101 or 102, depends how we want to define the basics. It's more making people understand how, and yeah, I'm very happy that this is how it's implemented in MediaWiki core.
Literally, I thought you were copy-pasting code from there.
That's awesome.
So if you want to see this in real world, go to mediawiki.org/selenium, and there will be a Node.js link, and click it, and there will be a list of repositories, including MediaWiki core, that have tests like this, so you can literally see how it's done. And one of them is like there's at least one wiki-base related.
Oh, cool. I'll take a look at that then. Any questions, comments? Ooh, amazing. So, oh no, it's your computer, Lajek. I will find then the GitHub repository that I wanted to show you. Yay. So I have some code examples here that I would run through all of you if you want or care. And now I can just do this as well. Great. So let's, oh, damn it. This is not comfortable in any way. Okay. So this is a very, very basic thing that I created recently, relatively, just as a proof of concept. I forked someone else's code, and I actually saw, well, it's not great, and I decided to actually make it better. And it's not a perfect solution, it's still just like an example, so it is an IMDb one. We can take a look at the library that we have. So here, I would love to actually take a look at the pages and go start with base page. So the idea is that, first of all, the base page is the only place that actually speaks to the Selenium or to WebDriver practically. So we import it here and here only, and we're done with that. And we initialize. This is also where we do the setup. Setup should technically go and be in a setup class, maybe taking from configuration, but for now, as I said, it's an example. And we have components, because a base page, in my experience, tends to be big, too big. Because if you start mimicking what Selenium is giving you, you get to a point where you have a 200 or whatever lines in your base page, which is also not a good way to work. So what I did is I kind of stripped down the components of Selenium and moved them into components. So whenever I want to do text, just return new text component. When I want to do find, I'll just do find component. And wait, interactions, and then whatever more we want. This is the opposite of a Mac from the scroll. So let's take a look then at an example of component, just for fun, and then continue on. Yeah, why not? So for example, for weight, we have different types of weights. And we want to have wait for visible element, or wait for element, or whatever else you want to implement here. So whenever you do whatever session, or whatever we'll call it, in wait, you can do wait for visible element in the selector. And that's the idea. The idea is just to kind of keep our base page a bit trimmed and more readable. And then we can take a look more at pages. And specifically, let's take a look at the home page for now. So, yeah. So what we want to have here is like we import or we extend our IMDb base page. We do our constructor. This is not a good example because the driver is still here. Shouldn't be, but as I said, kind of was a work in progress when I wrote it. And we have like get suggested trailers and submit search. This text, get elements text, which is something that doesn't really exist in Selenium, so it's an extension which was written in those things, makes it easier to work with, and then it's in one place only. So it's always in the end you do something, your extension, your component, and then you can add some things to it. And we have logs. I also think it's a very good practice in those components and in your base page to have like a debug or a trace even. So in case the things are really failing and your logs are not enough because you don't want to have, okay, click here, do this, you can actually run and just see everything that happened if you're in a needle in a haystack scenario. And let's go. Keyboard. So we can go here again, components, and look quickly at is that text. So we have the get, and we have a set for text, and we have get element texts. And I'm not saying it's the best implementation, saying it's something. And we have like an example of what a log debug would look like if we had one. And this is the idea. The idea that this is completely detached, and if something is broken, it's one place, it's easy to find. And yeah, that's generally how it looks, and I would be happy to share this with you as well. And if you have any questions or something, let me know. Otherwise, I was really fast. Yeah.
Yes, so there's one question from someone watching the stream.
Okay.
They ask, why not headless Chrome? Have you not used it?
Headless Chrome?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I don't think it's related to this right now. I mean, headless Chrome as a browser infrastructure I just hard-coded Chrome here. The idea is take from configuration whatever you want. I'm more talking about how to architect your test environment and your test solution. Headless Chrome works great. Want to test on Safari, if it's possible, great. Want to test on whatever, it's great. I technically don't care about browsers in stock even. This officially would run also on mobile if you use whatever other Selenium to mobile extensions that are there. So it's more conceptual, not down to browser or whatever.
And now we comment on that, you could use headless Chrome with this code. There's no reason not to.
I think he meant because in the example itself I wrote Chrome, which is example of like hard coding the Chrome. I said you need to take it from a configuration or an environment or whatever. This works for Chrome, this would work for Android if the library supports that, which I'm not sure. Anything else? Well, I don't know if it's good or bad. Then I guess I'll say thank you very much. And, Is it the one that doesn't need to do then for everything? Is it like has the synchronicity built in?
Yes.
Oh, that's better. That's so much better.
It has advantages and disadvantages. But